blah 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 blah.
Hello everybody and welcome to I'll Tell You What TV, the F1 podcast, where we're going to be talking about the Singapore Grand Prix. However, we have an interesting situation that has occurred in the I'll Tell You What TV headquarters, otherwise known as James's living room. James has had a tooth out today, the second one in about 4 or 5 weeks, and we were just about to get the show going, and Vicky has turned up. She went out, she's just come back, and James is a little indisposed, I think, at the moment, while he tries to explain what he's up to. Steve's with us though, and James, I'm sure, will be with us as soon as he physically can be. So Steve, how are you this evening?
I'm absolutely fine, but if James wants to butt in at any point, then speak up.
He's not yet. I'll tell you what, I'll start off with apologising to everybody for us not doing a podcast last week. Turns out on the day, to be fair, James wasn't feeling very well on that day, as I put on the video, but to be fair, neither was I and neither was Steve, so we sort of all collectively decided, you know what, let's have a night off. And to be honest, I think we all needed it, because Steve, I think, was asleep all night, well, all evening.
As soon as I realised we weren't doing the podcast, I went to bed.
Yeah. And obviously James wasn't feeling too well and I wasn't great, so yeah, we had a night off on that one. What it does mean is that we didn't do our predictions live on a podcast. So what we did on Saturday was we were talking to each other, messaging each other, and we did our predictions then. However, we did...
No, we didn't. Well, we did me and you did them on Friday.
Well, okay, yeah, we did them on Friday. James did it after qualifying on Saturday. But we usually do 6 predictions, but we only did 4 this week. And I've already got the 2 random ones ready for the next race, so the random predictions. So when we do have a look at how we got on with our predictions, you'll see that we have only done 4 predictions for this week. James, I'm sure, will butt in at some point, and I hope he's alright, and hello to Vicky, and I hope Vicky's well. Once again, she's got to put up with James.
I don't know, prima donna.
Anyway, I was hoping that he might jump in there, but I wonder if he stood there typing. He's writing Vicky messages because he can't talk very well. Okay, the Singapore Grand Prix. I'm unsure whether we just crack on and have a look at... No, I was going to say whether we crack on and have a look at how we got on with our predictions, or whether we start on a different topic. And you know what? I think I've got to start on a different topic. And that is because I think we need to give out an award.
To Perez?
Yeah, it is actually, yeah.
What a surprise. And
the award is called Dick of the Day. Because I think, to be fair, Perez definitely earned Dick of the Day on Sunday.
Several times.
Yeah, several times. Now, I do know that James will want to be a part of this conversation. So it'll be interesting to see if he's listening in, whether he's going to go, Vicky, I've got to go. And we'll see what he's got to say. But, yeah, of the many talking points of the race, Perez and how he was the whole of that day, personally, I think will result in him not being in Force India for much longer, not being in Force India for next season, and Force India taking Ocon.
Well, now that Force India have got the financial situation sorted, there's no need for Perez's money. And for me, that bloke is a liability to any team. He's shown it at every team he's been at.
Yeah.
And I want to stop talking and let James come in on with his opinion, because I know that he is very, I don't want to say opinionated, he's got his opinions, and I kind of agree with him. I don't want to steal his limelight. So whenever James is available, he should just speak up.
Yeah.
But talking about Perez getting Dick of the Day, I tell you what though, there was a very close number two to that.
Well, yeah, there was. I mean, right. Of the notes that I wrote down, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Right, I'm going to read out the final notes that I wrote down from the race, and usually my final notes are something like about whether it was a good race, an interesting race, and how a few people did. And this is what I wrote down. It was an odd race. Perez, dick of the day. Sorokin, good defence, then fought for dick of the day. Hamilton was quality, Max was very good, Vettel was frustrated with his strategy, Bottas very good, Kimi very good, Ricciardo very good, Alonso excellent, wasn't lapped. So yeah, Sorokin definitely was competing for Dick of the Day, but...
Well, I would have said Grosjean.
Grosjean? Why? Oh, for the blue flag situation.
For the blue flag situation, yeah.
Yeah.
Very, was he just... Did he think that the leader was more further cars behind? I mean, Charlie Whiting clearly said that the boards were flashing up with his number on them, and I understand he is only 3 points away on his super license from not getting a race ban.
Yeah, it's an odd one for me with Grosjean, because at the moment where Grosjean overtook Sorokin and in turn blocked Lewis Hamilton, I think Sorokin was letting Hamilton through, and Grosjean was like, right, this is my chance, I'm going for it. And he overtook off the track, he didn't get out of the way for the blue flags, and he was that was bad driving. But
how come it wasn't picked up though that he overtook? There's two things here. He overtook off the track, but also if you go off at turn 2, you're supposed to rejoin after the cone. After the marker, and he did not. He went off the track and he didn't rejoin, and he didn't give the place back, and we didn't hear anything of it. Now, either it wasn't reported to Charlie, but surely somebody should have seen that, one of the officials, and said that's not acceptable. Well, because instantly, commentators picked up on it.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't go off at turn 2 though. I don't know if he was just highlighting about the bollard at turn 2 that you have to go, well, turn 3 that you have to go around.
Turn 3.
But because it wasn't there that it happened, it was at turn 7.
Oh, I'm thinking of somebody else overtaking then that went wide there.
Right, okay. Yeah, it was turn 7 where the incident where Grosjean went round. It was like on...
Off the curb, yeah.
He was over the curb, he was off the track, and to be fair, that was a part of the track where in qualifying you would have had your lap negated. But I mean, even so, with that situation, for me, Perez definitely dick of the day, and Sorokin fought for it. He was brilliant when Perez was behind him. But this is the thing, right? With Perez, there was the incident on the first lap. Again, with his teammate. Again, doesn't accept responsibility for wiping out his teammate. Now, I know the British commentators said... oh, is that a voice I can hear?
Hasta la vista, baby.
For anyone that's interested, that would be James. So, James, would you like to type up your thoughts about Sergio Perez and how he got on at Singapore, and whether you would have given him an award for Dick of the Day? And while James is typing, me and Steve can keep talking. So yeah, for me,
Perez is the best.
Oh, right. Someone's phoning him now. Oh no, he's got an advert playing. So yeah, as you could tell, James can't speak very well. He's turned into a lady apparently. So it may take a while to get a quick answer off James tonight. So yeah, I mean, come on, James. I know that you was a little more vocal yesterday to me about Sergio Perez, especially about turn 1 and 2 and 3.
Perez should be given his page 45.
He's not wrong. He's not wrong.
Page 45. I think it was P45.
I think he means P45. He probably wrote P45 and the thing wrote page. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I have seen
Hi, James. I sound a bit different.
Better than usual.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. What was that? Say again. I think that means no.
Time for more humping.
Time for more humping. Oh, so James, that's why James disappeared then just before we came live. Right, Perez. At the start, he didn't accept the fact that he did hit his teammate. He says, "Oh, I didn't see him," and I know James has said to me yesterday. He said, "Oh, I didn't see him, and there wasn't any room." It's like, well, if there wasn't any room, why were you going over to the right? I mean, I know the British commentators said that Ocon put his car in a bit of a dangerous position. However, it's the start of the race and people get bunched up, and you have to expect cars to be around you. And at the point just before the collision, Perez lets off his steering, moves over to the right, hits his teammate, and then goes, "Oh, not my fault." And I'm sorry, but it was his fault. But then, I think for me what was worse was when he was behind Sirotkin and he starts giving it, "Oh, tell Charlie this is wrong, this is ridiculous, he's all over the place, like he's really slow." And I'm like, hang on a minute, I'm watching this thinking, well done Sirotkin, you're driving really well here. I didn't see him doing anything dangerous, I didn't see him moving in braking zones. Yes, he was slow in the corners, but hold on a moment, he's in the slowest fucking car on the grid, what do you expect? Oh,
James wants to say something.
What does he want Charlie to do?
Well, it's a good question. I
Maybe
mean,
bite his finger.
it is a good question, though. I mean, in all fairness, I mean, I don't know what Charlie Whiting would have been thinking at the time, but we did hear the radio message. I'm sure I wrote it down. The radio message that come back, that basically said, okay, Perez getting, this is what I wrote, Perez getting desperate behind Sirotkin, wants Charlie to do something. I wrote down, what the fuck? And he was also being caught by Hulkenberg. Then he was moaning again, and I wrote Sirotkin driving okay. Force India and Perez just bitching.
Well, with Sirotkin, he pitted on lap 1 because of the safety car.
Yeah.
So he'd done his mandatory pit stop. So at that point he'd used the second set of tyres. And if the tyres had lasted, it had gone to the end of the race on him. So that's why he was fighting for every position.
Yeah.
And he was well within his right to.
And, I mean, I'm pretty sure, it looks like I haven't written it down, but I'm pretty sure that the message that was given to Perez from his engineer was, Charlie says that you're not close enough for him to do anything at the moment.
It would be good if Charlie could contact Perez directly and have an argument with him, lol.
That would be good, actually. That really would be good, because then Charlie could say, "What are you bitching about? If you're faster, overtake him." That's the thing that gets me with Perez. We've seen it so many times when he was at McLaren, in Force India. I don't remember much about any other time, but we've seen him behind like his teammate going, "Oh, faster, let me through." But now he's like behind an opponent and he's moaning to the race director that the car ahead is too slow and dangerous and they should move him out of the way. It's like, hang on a minute, mate. You're in that car because you're meant to be good and you're in a better car. Overtake him. If you can't, then tough shit. And
well, what happened? I know that after they had a bit of a coming together with Sirotkin's car was damaged, but within one lap, Hulkenberg overtook Sirotkin.
Within half a lap.
Within half a lap.
Go on, James.
He thinks he is Alonso, but he doesn't have the respect Alonso does up and down the paddock.
Another good point from the robot in the corner. You know what? I'd agree with that kind of analogy. It's a little bit. I know I was talking to someone the other day about sim racers and giving respect to people around you, and Perez seems to be one of those that demands respect and demands people move for him, but to be honest, he's never done anything that would require anyone to think anything other than, "Oh fuck, it's him." Now, that's not because he's good, it's because he's fucking dangerous, he's a liability. Now, I mentioned about Turn 1, we talked a little bit about that. We mentioned about moaning. I mean, that was just ridiculous, and I think Martin Brundle summed it up properly, that sort of along the lines of, if the race director had told Sorokin to move out the way, for me, the sport would have died right there.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, I don't think I could have brought myself to watch another race, because that isn't racing. If you're slower but you're ahead of someone, it doesn't mean you have to move out the way, unless it's a blue flag situation.
Otherwise, there's no point in having a race, because you qualify and then that would be the positions they'd finish in.
Yeah, exactly. And not only that, I mean, okay, so after those two moments, you've then got the point where, to be honest, I thought he should be black flagged for that. And that was when, as you mentioned, he made contact with Sorokin. I'm not being daft, or am I? To me, it looked like he knew exactly where he was, and he just turned into him.
Yeah, I'm wondering whether he was turning into him, expecting Sorokin to respond to make his next corner tight, to be able to have an advantage. But Sorokin didn't. You know, why should he have to move? But also, not only that, you don't expect a car to move that sharply on a straight.
Well, not on that bit of the straight.
No.
Two drivers are in F1 who shouldn't be. Who are they? I would say Perez and Stroll.
Yeah, and they could end up being teammates.
Yeah, they could. I mean, the thing is, I have seen stories today that people have been suggesting that Perez should lose his Force India seat for the next race. Now, to be honest, I mean, it is still up in the air as to whether Stroll will get into the Force India before the end of this season, right? But to be honest, if you're the new owners of Force India, if you were sat there going, well, we might not, we'll probably wait till the end of the season, this may have just made up your mind to go, actually, you know what, fuck him off.
Let's come up with a Force India name.
With a Force India name? Depends on who Stroll's teammate is. It'll probably... Go on, what was that? This almost sounds like I'm listening to porn. It's really not fun. I wouldn't...
So it was James making them noises when we were racing the other night.
Yeah, it could have been. I wouldn't be surprised if it ends up being something like Stroll Racing, which would be kind of not ironic, but how can you be strolling if you're racing? But anyway, I mean, maybe that's something that any of the viewers or listeners can make suggestions on. What should Force India be called? But I think the more important question is, should Perez lose the seat in Force India before the end of the season, and should he not be in Force India for next season? Should they keep Ocon?
I've got a good name for him. Instead of Force India, it's Force Stroll, but then you could have like a little bit afterwards saying Force Stroll out.
It wouldn't be wrong. Force Stroll out. I don't think his dad would go for that somehow. But no. I mean, it could be a trigger though. It really could. I mean, the way that Perez drove, and we've talked about his bullshit excuses before. So driving bad. I mean, like, okay, James likes Nico Hulkenberg. When Hulkenberg fucked up, he came out and says, I totally messed up there. Perez fucks up and he goes, oh, did something happen? Oh, I didn't see it. It's like,
For a stroll into the wall, there was no room.
Oh, you're on. Hang on. For stroll into the wall, there was no room. Oh, that's the team name. See, I understand. Gagged.
Plenty of experience.
Yeah. So for me, I mean, to be honest, for me, yeah, Perez, fuck him off, keep Ocon, fuck him off. Stroll's going to be in the car anyway. Perez hasn't done enough, and he is a liability. And I wouldn't be surprised if other teams go, actually, you know what? We don't want him, because what he did to, Okay, what he did to Sorokin was worse than what Vettel did to Hamilton in Baku, only because that was under safety car and they were going slow, not at racing condition. But what Vettel did at the time, we said should have been a race ban. So what Perez did should potentially have been a race ban. I mean, I would have black flagged him. I would have disqualified him from the race, because that is intentionally driving into a competitor.
Yeah, I saw something on YouTube this week where Charlie Whiting was having a discussion with someone, and I think it was Mika Salo. Go on, James.
No one would want Perez, as the money he brings in ends up in the war.
And another good point for the robot in the corner. I mean, that's that would be an interesting equation, actually. Sorry, go on, Steve.
Mika Salo had been a race steward at previous events, and somebody was asking him, this interviewer was asking him, if he was in the race steward's room at that particular, for that incident, would his opinions been? And obviously you get the generic, well, I didn't get to see it from all angles, but it clearly looked like it was deliberate. And for me, when I was racing, if something like that happened in a race, you'd expect a black flag from a driver.
Yeah.
You know, a driver would get black flagged for something like that. So, you know, why not? But would it have changed the result? No, because he didn't get in the points anyway, did he?
No, but it doesn't. It is much worse. I mean, if you were black flagged now, it's been years since somebody's been black flagged. And to be honest, I mean, I've mentioned it on previous podcasts. They don't do black flags anymore for whatever reason. And for me, it's like, when someone does something like that, I suppose the repercussion, maybe it is a fear of repercussion. It's a fear of, well, if we give them a black flag, but then they prove that it shouldn't have been a black flag, it could cause us a load of problem. I don't think they should have. I don't think that should be a factor.
You shouldn't have the fear. No, because if you've given somebody a drive-through penalty and they serve it, you can't take that drive-through penalty off them if it was deemed to be a mistake. Because if those penalties are given, they've got to be 100% certain.
I mean, it's idiotic driving from a driver that comes across as having no idea that he's in the fucking wrong. I mean, I've not seen what he said about what happened with Sorokin, and to be honest, I don't know if I want to see it, because if he says anything other than, oh, I fucked up there, I'd be even more angry. And the thing is, it didn't get a hell of a lot better for him towards the end of the race either. But Sorokin, I mean, it was weird. I know James said to me a couple of days ago that he was basically cheering on Sorokin, and I was in a way, because I was thinking, yeah, he's doing well, he's fighting, he's making it difficult, he's doing what a racing driver should do. But as soon as Perez got past him, unfortunately, he went into dick mode as well.
If I was the team owner, I would have pulled him in 5 laps from the end and publicly had a go at the twat in the garage.
The twat.
I'd love someone in the know to be able to do the mathematics on how much Perez brings to the team.
Yeah.
The mistakes he's made, all the costs in damage to repairs.
Yeah.
And also the loss in revenue for the points that they would have received for finishing more races where he's had incidents, and to try and work out whether it's actually worth him being there or not, because you've got to say that the amount of money that Stroll's taken to Williams, it's not paying off.
Yeah.
And we've seen it in the past. Maldonado took money to teams, but it cost the teams more to have the driver there.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering how close Perez is to that situation where he's going to end up costing the team more money than what he brings in.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's about 30 million a year. I could be wrong. I must be wrong on that. I know he brings in a fair amount of money. Go on, James.
Other than Mexican sponsors, who would want to sponsor him?
It is Mexican sponsors that do sponsor him. I do know that.
Condoms might. Doesn't matter how much you fuck it, it'll keep on going. Just like that.
I just imagine some weirdo listening to this is going to get off on James.
Say again.
What was that, James?
Specsavers.
Specsavers, yeah, it'd be a good idea that. You watch, we'll end up losing viewers and subscribers through James's robot voice. At least we can understand him more than we can understand Ray. I'm gonna get into trouble for that one. But there you go, Steve. You did say to James, you went, "Does it do Scottish?" So
had nothing to do with Ray.
I'm only winding him up. Okay. Say again, James.
I love shortbread.
Oh, you know what? Shortbread broken up in custard is fucking delicious. Anyway, okay. So we've talked a bit about Perez, and for me, he was one of the big talking points. But obviously, there was the other big talking point that you mentioned, Steve, with Grosjean. Now, I wrote down in my sort of end of race notes that it was an odd race, and by that, what I meant was that it wasn't the most entertaining of races. I didn't expect it to be. It was Singapore, but the fact that people were driving like dickheads did actually make it kind of entertaining. So it wasn't really much of a race, but I did still find it quite entertaining, because it was like Grosjean drives like a dick, nearly crashes into Sorokin, blocks Lewis Hamilton. Lewis Hamilton has to sort of make sure he doesn't get wiped out. Max Verstappen closed a 4-second gap on him and could have taken the lead. But I don't know if you two have seen that Max Verstappen has actually come out and said afterwards that he could have gone for an overtake on Lewis Hamilton, but he didn't think it would have been fair to do so given how those other guys were driving.
Yeah, I don't have much respect for Verstappen, but he's just earned 0.5%. Because when you've got that much desire and passion to win a race, to actually go, do you know what, I'm not going to take the lead because it's not right.
Yeah.
Then he's earned 0.5%, which for Max is quite a lot. But for me, the race was. I actually found the race quite an interesting event, shall I call it? So I can't really call it a race. I'll call it an event, because right from the start, having Lewis Hamilton on pole, which wasn't foreseen other than for me.
I mean, that was a pole position that broke Vettel, I think.
Yeah. But when Vettel got past Max at the start, I was thinking, okay, Hamilton's going to be under pressure now. But Hamilton was taking it easy, and there was nothing Vettel could do about it.
Yeah.
And then the radio message came over from Hamilton saying, "Oh, there's plenty left in these tyres yet." Ferrari relayed that to Vettel, and Vettel's like, "I don't believe it. That's not as common."
Well, no. Ferrari's Vettel's engineer told Vettel. He actually said Hamilton's just reported that he's not got much left in his tyres, and that's when Vettel said, "I don't believe that."
Oh, I thought the message came across as
no. He said there's plenty left in these tyres, or there's a lot left in these tyres, right? But it was misheard. It was misheard by Brundle, but Crofty heard it properly, or the other way round. And Ferrari heard it wrong, told Vettel that Hamilton has just said basically there's not a lot left in his tyres, to which Vettel said, "I don't believe that," and he was right.
I'm back 5.
Back 5.
I'll be back in 5.
Back in 5. I'll be back.
Hasta la vista. Okay, so James will be back in a few minutes.
So, but from that point, however you read that situation, you've got Hamilton that's taking it easy, and you think he's always got a bit more pace in that car than what he's showing, and Vettel's struggling on his tyres. And then when Vettel pits, Hamilton starts putting in some really good lap time, opening that gap up. And I think when Hamilton came back out of the pits, that shocked Vettel how much Hamilton was ahead.
Well,
still.
well, there was an interesting situation. Now, in practice, when they were doing their long tyre runs, I think Lewis Hamilton was averaging 145.9s, right, and into the 146s. But obviously they do sandbag a bit. However, both Ferraris were half a second to a second faster on their averages. The Red Bulls was about the same as the Mercedes. Now, when it came to the race, I mean, you're right, Hamilton was cruising basically at the start, because the fastest way is a one-stop race, and the hypersoft tyre was said would only do 15 laps, and that's including qualifying. So to make them last, they've got to look after them. Now, for the first few full racing laps, they were doing high 147s, right, which it straight away indicated to me, yeah, they are cruising. He's taking it easy, and like the commentary team said, Hamilton's basically doing what he did in Abu Dhabi against Rosberg, where he's got a little bit of a gap and he's just pacing himself because he's managing the race and the tyres, and nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
What I thought was interesting was when Hamilton all of a sudden put the hammer down, he went from doing high 147s to doing 145s, right? New lap record, bang, instantly. But Vettel was able to keep up with him. So Vettel just about managed to keep the gap. Verstappen, though, couldn't. Now, that was either because Verstappen was playing the longer game and looking after his tyres more, or he just didn't have the pace. Turned out he was playing the longer game. So when Vettel pitted, he ended up getting stuck behind... Oh, I can't remember who it was. He got Perez. Yeah, he got stuck behind Perez. So he loses a little bit of time, which means that when Hamilton pits, Hamilton has got a massive lead. So Hamilton's now comfortable, and because Vettel is stuck behind Perez, Verstappen goes a few laps longer and manages the undercut. And considering that, I mean, to be fair, there was brilliant driving from the both of them when he came out of the pits, but Vettel was lucky, because had Verstappen's car not stuttered when he was pulling away, Verstappen would have been
a clear.
Yeah, it'd have been clear.
Also, just another point on Vettel being stuck behind Perez for a few laps. You didn't hear Vettel on the radio saying, "What the hell is he doing? Get this slow car out of my way."
That is true. That is very, very true. I mean, I could keep going on about the Perez situation, because I know James had got loads to say about it, because he was talking to me about it last night when we were racing. So for anyone that may have found it frustrating hearing a robot voice instead of James's voice, trust me, you're not as frustrated as he is, because I know that he had loads that he wanted to talk about regarding Perez. And he actually did tell me last night, he says, if I can't speak much tomorrow, tell Steve Sirotkin is my new favourite driver.
Forgetting Perez as well.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, like you say, it was an entertaining event, but as far as a race goes, there wasn't much of a race, but it was an I did find it an entertaining event. And then when I saw the rain coming down, I'm like, oh, come on, yeah, this will be interesting. And then I'm like, well, hang on, where's the fucking rain?
Well, apparently, yes, there was a little bit of rain in the air, but at that time of day, every day, there's a water sprinkle system that water the flowers around the circuit. And some of them are quite high up, so the camera angle must have just been getting this. Like, imagine when you've watered a hanging basket and you see the water coming out of a hanging basket.
Yeah.
And that was, and with the light being behind it, it would have seen a lot more than. But it was raining as well.
Yeah.
But obviously not a lot.
Yeah. I believe James is back with us now. So yeah. Okay. So Grosjean then.
Boring.
What, Grosjean's boring, or the race was boring?
Sirotkin made it watchable.
Well, the thing is, while you were away for a moment, I mean, me and Steve have both just said that it wasn't a very exciting. It wasn't much of a race, but it was an entertaining event because of the fuck ups that people were making. Sirotkin's defence on Perez was, I think, probably the part of the highlight of the whole race. But the rest of the race was a bit dull, and I mean, I think it begs the question again, right? Well, look at it this way, right? The start of this season, quite a few of the races were pretty fucking shit and boring, right? Really shit and boring.
It was shit up until British and German Grand Prix, wasn't it?
British Grand Prix, German Grand Prix, Italian Grand Prix. Oh, they happen to be 3 proper racetracks. And they give great races in cars that are difficult to race. Then you go to Singapore and it's not really a race. I think there's too many street circuits on the calendar. Fuck them all off. Keep Monaco because it's the pinnacle. It's the big one. Keep that. Fuck all the other road circuits off. I mean, they're on about, yeah, let's have a road race around London or around Miami, or the latest one, let's go to Hawaii.
There's loads of racetracks around the world that they still go on. They're brilliant.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, it's the racetracks need something like Formula One there to help them with the revenue.
Exactly. I mean, if they want if they want race circuits to improve their facilities and stuff, they need to be having events on. Otherwise, they can't make any money to improve their facilities.
Are you telling me that the facilities at a street circuit is better than the facilities at a race circuit?
No, I doubt they are. I doubt they are
because
at all.
When you think of most race circuits have a I forgot the name for it, but they have like a road around the outside of the circuit.
Service road.
Like service road all the way around the outside. So if vehicles need to get around the circuit while the event's on, they can. At a street circuit, that must be a pain in the arse. Yeah. And I'm on about medical vehicles, or recovery vehicles, or whatever it is.
Or even a fire. I mean, think about it. If there was what would they do if there was a fire in a building next to the track?
Yeah.
I mean, I've never seen it happen, but I mean, one day we could end up with the commentary team going, yeah, and Hamilton, he's only got 2 laps to go, and he's been overtaken by a fire truck. But
it's been blue flagged.
we saw that in Korea.
Well, yeah,
kinda,
yeah. But no, I mean, I do think that they should fuck off the street circuits apart from Monaco and focus on proper racetracks, because this season has shown that the proper racetracks are giving slightly better races. And when you think about it, having lost Malaysia, that's a proper racetrack. Now, for me, and
Germany.
Yeah. I always enjoyed racing around Malaysia, driving around that track. It's a tricky one, but I enjoyed it. And
you think of the others as well. You've got Turkey.
Yeah,
the Istanbul Park. You've got Korea. That's a street circuit, isn't it?
Well, no, not really.
It was a Formula One track, which was going to be developed into a industrial
city
estate around it. So, a bit odd. But I mean, we've been losing racetracks and bringing in some more street circuits, and they don't work for Formula One cars, in my opinion.
It's a little bit like in Britain at the moment, or for the last God knows how many years, 10, 15 years, pubs have been closing regularly, but alcohol's still pretty cheap from your local supermarket. But it's not as much fun going to a supermarket to buy beer compared to actually going out to your local pub. I mean, there's a pub not far from where I live that's now a carpet shop, and it's like, I don't think that's what that building was really for.
Well, there's so many of them now as well, because there's the one in Chellaston near us that is now not an off licence, bloody hell. I suppose it does sell alcohol, but it's a one-stop shop. And there's so many of them that have turned into like these little mini Tesco's or whatever, and it's just like, well, that used to be a good pub. Okay, people never used to go there, but anyway.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a bit what Formula One's like, but yeah, I mean, as far as the race goes, though, I mean, I don't know. I mean, for me, it was an odd race where, I don't know, in a way I would have preferred Ferrari to have done better in qualifying in the race to make the championship perhaps a little more tense towards the end of the season.
Long Beach is nice.
What was that? Don't be too nice.
Long Beach is nice.
Oh, Long Beach? No, it's not.
Oh.
I tell you where is nice. Indianapolis Road race. You made me forget what I was going to say.
Circuit.
You made me forget what I was going to say now. Yeah. Sorry, say again.
Your last turn.
Something about
The last turn.
Last turn.
Oh well, we'll get on to that in a bit. Don't you worry. Don't you worry. We'll get on to the last turn in a bit. Yeah, Ferrari. So if Ferrari had had a better race weekend, it would have made the championship more interesting going further forward. But I do think, well, if you look at it, I think Mercedes broke Ferrari in Italy. I think Mercedes broke Vettel in Singapore. And that's going to hurt for the remainder of the season. I can't see Vettel pulling back a 40-point deficit unless Hamilton has DNFs and Vettel wins. That's the only way I can see that coming around, because Hamilton is wise enough and clever enough to know, right, I don't need to win this race. I don't even need to beat him. I just need to keep going.
Yeah, the problem he's got now, though, is he's got Raikkonen to beat as well. Because Raikkonen's racing for himself, not for Ferrari.
But the thing is, have you noticed, where was it? Since, well, not only Monza, but I think it was the race before that, where we've been talking about, like, there seems to be a slightly different Kimi Raikkonen. Well, I didn't realise, but after the Monza Grand Prix, Sebastian Vettel had come out and basically said, well, I've got to work even harder now because I'm basically racing against 3 cars, including my teammate. So he's fully aware that his teammate is now racing him. Now, when you look at the history of Ferrari, or even the history of Formula 1, teams would quite often favour the person who's fighting for the championship. So Mercedes, if need be, may switch Hamilton and Bottas to benefit Hamilton because he's in a position where he can win the championship, Bottas isn't.
Unlike the other race where they kept Bottas out for much longer to hold up Vettel.
Exactly.
I can see a title deciding DNF at Suzuka engine problem.
Ooh. For Hamilton or Vettel, though? He doesn't know.
He doesn't know.
He doesn't know. See, Steve's picking up the mumbles now as well. So yeah, I mean,
I just want to test something. James, can you just say no? Stop! No. In mumble, so that I can actually understand what that means.
That sounded like yeah.
Yeah, it comes across as do me harder.
That's what he was saying to the dentist. But yeah, so I mean,
no, stop, no, Steve, stop.
yes, Steve, stop. Right, let me get back to my notes. We're going a little bit off topic. We're going to get on to James's sex life now. Okay, was there anything else that you guys can think of that stood out from the race for you?
Felt sorry for Brendan, but at the end of the day, I probably broke a bit earlier and gone up his inside.
Oh, you're on about when he tried to overtake Sirotkin? Yeah, Sirotkin, did he get a penalty? He got a penalty for that, 5-second penalty. Now, for anyone that doesn't know, Hartley was trying to go around the outside of Sirotkin into turn 14, and Sirotkin basically just drove straight. He didn't bother turning, and Hartley nearly went into the wall.
I don't think it were it reminded me of Rosberg at
Red Bull Ring.
Well,
I think he'd just run out of tyres. His tyres were absolutely fucked.
Yeah, and because I watched it on Channel 4, and basically what David Coulthard had said on there was if he'd have tried to turn the corner, the car would have just ploughed on forwards anyway. He had to try and scrub more speed off before he turned the wheel.
I can understand that, because I know, I mean, that's something that I do when I'm racing. Like, for example, James mentioned about Long Beach. We had a race at Long Beach recently in the Mercs, and I went for an overtake, braked too late. I knew I weren't going to be able to turn, so I didn't even bother trying. Because if I'd have tried turning, I'd have locked the wheel, skidded, and gone into the barrier. Whereas if I keep the wheel straight, I can slow down, not hit anything, and recover. So I can kind of understand that one. But yeah, that's right. I was talking about Kimi Räikkönen. So from just before Monza, Kimi Räikkönen would appear to have been let off the reins a bit, and I think that's added to the break-in of Vettel as well, because as he said, he's now got to race Hamilton, Bottas, and Kimi Räikkönen, whereas prior he's been able to just go, well, I only need to beat Hamilton and Bottas because they'll make Kimi get out of my way.
Well, are you aware of when Kimi Räikkönen was told that he would not have his seat at Ferrari next season?
No.
Right. Well, this has come out from Charles Leclerc and also from Kimi. Charles Leclerc and Kimi were both told in between qualifying and the race at Monza.
Fuck off.
Yeah. All right. So you've just put your car on pole at Monza in a Ferrari, yeah, and then you're told, you know, before the race starts, at some point after qualifying before the race, oh, you're going to be losing your seat.
Fucking hell.
Yeah.
I mean, there's man management, and there's couldn't give a fuck about your staff, right? And that's couldn't give a fuck about your staff.
But how quickly did the news come out that Kimi would be going to Sauber? It came out pretty quick. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if he's heard all the rumours like everyone else did that Charles Leclerc was going to be in a Ferrari. If he's wanting to still race in Formula 1, he would have gone to Sauber months ago and said, if it's true that I'm likely to lose my seat to Charles Leclerc, I'm prepared to race for you in his seat.
Yeah.
Now, if they turn around and go, well, okay, if that's the situation, here's a pre-contract, will you agree to it? Yes. That's the only way I can see it to have been set up so quickly that he was prepared to go to Sauber because he would have spoke to them in advance.
Yeah. And I mean, let's face it, what are Ferrari going to do? Sack him for driving better than Vettel recently? I mean,
how much do you want to put your driver off when he's got a chance of winning the Italian Grand Prix in a Ferrari, and then telling him that next year he's not going to be in the Ferrari?
Well, okay, looking at it objectively, maybe they had a bit of a meeting and went, right, we've got a problem. We need to announce that we're changing drivers. If Kimi goes and wins the race and then we announce it, that's not going to go down well for us. But if we not announce it, sorry. If he wins the race and then we tell him, that's not going to go very well. But if we tell him before and he wins the race, then we can say, well, yes, we told him before the race, and we're ever so happy that it motivated him to go and win the race.
Yeah.
So a different spin on it that might not look as bad, but what turns out is he doesn't win the race, they fuck him up with his tyres, and he still loses his seat.
I think they just expected Vettel to win that one, and yeah, well, we all know what happened.
On the interview that I read where Vettel said that he was fighting 3 cars, he'd also said it was meant to be me on pole position. It's like, hang on a minute, it's not meant to be anybody. You have to go and fucking do it, you dickhead.
Yeah, you have to earn it. Now, no one has the right to be there.
Exactly. Now, it's easy for us to sit in our armchairs at home, or for James to lie on his sofa holding his mouth, sucking on a sweet, and diss these guys for doing what they do. But I mean, I'd love to do what they're doing, but it's the arrogance of it should have been me on pole. Now, there's a difference of going,
It could have been.
It could have been, yeah. I had the speed to be on pole. Not, it should have been me on pole.
If we're in a race, I know that it's only online, but if we're in a race and somebody out qualifies me, more often than not, I'm like, well done. I'm not a cunt going, it should have been me.
Yeah. Now, well, I don't know. I know I've seen people's lap times and gone, yeah, you know what, can't touch that, fair play, well done. And there's been other times where I'm like, you know what, I'm quicker than that and I fucked up, I should have got pole position. But that's the thing, okay, I have said I should have got pole position, but I haven't said it should have been me. Slight twist on the words there as I dug myself into a hole. But it's one of those things, having the capability and expecting it are two different things. It's a little bit like Perez. He expected Sorokin to fuck off out of the way, and then when he couldn't get past him and he wasn't getting out of the way, he then expected the governing body to make him get out of the way. Now,
can I just make a valid point on Perez a minute?
Yeah.
Because we've not mentioned this yet.
Go on.
Now, the front runners always look for a gap in traffic, see where the cars are going to be coming out to make sure that they come out in a good space.
Mm-hmm.
Surely, Force India would have known that they were going to be coming out behind Sorokin.
You'd think so.
Now, should they have tried to push Perez on to be ahead of Sorokin, so that to pit later, or should it have been looked at and gone, well, Perez is in a much faster car, much better driver, and he'll have no problem overtaking him. Now, if the team's thought that and he's struggled to do it, then the team should get rid of him.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, how long did it take the British commentary team to go, well, it's obvious that Sorokin is using all of his battery power down the DRS straight?
I feel sick, I may be a while.
Okay, James. Hope you're all right.
Does that voice changer do sick noises?
Bleh, had you right. Bleh. The thing is, he's going to try and type it, but it'll just go bleh. Yeah, I mean, I think you're right there with him. I mean, you look at Vettel struggled to get past Perez, right? Vettel's car is much better than Perez's car. So if Vettel struggles to get past Perez, then it's going to be just as likely that Perez could struggle to get past Sorokin. Now, I do know that Perez did say, why have you pitted me so that I'm behind him? But it's one of those things. If you have to pit because your tyres are fucked, they've gone, you need to pit, then you have no choice. You pit, you deal with it. But I think I'm getting a bit fed up with Formula 1, or with drivers in Formula 1 that just want people to move out of the way for them. And it's like, no. I mean, we've talked about it many times, France was as an example, how many times cars just moved out of the way for other people. And it's like, no, put up a fight, make it different. Don't pull off the racing line to defend to a degree. If they're going to come past you easy, make them go on the dirty part of the track.
Yeah. I think the difference for Sorokin, though, as well, is he's expected to come last. Or at least second to last in front of Van Dorn. But if you're in that position where you're almost expected to come last, you might as well fight for every single position. But if you're a midfield runner, then what's the point in battling the cars that are probably going to be finishing 50 seconds to a lap ahead of you at the end?
The thing is, I can understand that, but at the same time, how do you show how good you are?
Yeah.
How do you show people, look, you should hire me because he's in a much better car and he's struggling to get past me? Well,
I'll tell you how. And it's not by how difficult you make it for someone to overtake you, it's by how many points you bring into the team by the end of the season. And that's one of the, I'm not saying it's a problem with Formula 1, but that's the way the drivers look at it. They go, okay, I'll let him by because I might end up earning more points by the end of the season.
Yeah.
And it's the points that make prizes at the end of the day. And it would be nice to see more drivers do what Alonso's done when he's had Hamilton, Ricciardo, Verstappen, some of the front runners, coming up behind him, and he's like, do you know what? I'm going to fight for this position because he's got nothing to lose.
Yeah,
he's got nothing to prove, and he's got nothing to lose.
I'm just googling how many points does Perez cost Force India. Now I don't know if it's going to come up with anything.
Well, if it comes up with the oversteer network, apparently according to him, it's 50,000.
Yeah. I did see as well that Force India have reinstated team orders on Ocon and Perez. Well, to be honest, it shouldn't be on Ocon and Perez. It should be on Perez, because I mean, one of the reasons why I was just googling how many points Perez has cost Force India is because it was Perez's fault that Ocon was out of the race, and it was Perez's fault that he ended up out of the points in the race at Singapore. And I was trying to think back how many times when those two have come together, or Perez has been in a fairly decent position and fucked it up completely. Now I'm pretty sure most of the times that Perez and Ocon have come together, it's been Perez's fault, but he's refused to accept any portion of responsibility. Like at Baku, like at Spa, when he pushed him into the wall. I mean, there's so many occasions. But this is the thing, right? You look at what Ocon did at Spa this season, nearly took the lead, but fought better of it, backed out of it, lost the place to his teammate. He was talked about more than Perez was for gaining a place and getting into third.
Yeah.
So Ocon's lost a position and he's talked about more as being a great driver. And it's that race awareness to go, I mean, he would have known Perez is there, I've got room, Perez, and everything's fine, and then bang, Perez comes over and hits him. So it's Perez that is costing Force India. Now, I did hear yesterday that Force India are in an interesting situation because the new owners are not short of money. Then they're not really in a position. Okay, if they don't score many more points for the remainder of this season, it's not that much of a problem because they've got the money, right, to cope anyway. So for them, it wouldn't be a case of you cost us X amount of points. It'd be, hang on, you've just cost us money because now we've got to basically pay to repair these cars. And it's more about the driving ability. I do think that this weekend could trigger a few changes, being right, let's get Stroll in, because at least it gives him then a few races to get to know the engineers, get to know the people, get to know the car, and for next season we can hit the ground running as early as possible. Right? I
wouldn't be surprised though with Perez if he's got an absolute completely watertight contract.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised either. Yeah, I mean, I can't see Force India getting rid of Ocon before the end of the season. Because I mean, well, maybe they could, but I think there would be uproar. Now, there is an interesting situation with Ocon, and to be honest, I was really looking forward to see how he was going to get on at Singapore, because doing well at somewhere like Spa is completely different to doing well at somewhere like Singapore. I mean, of the people that were racing at Singapore, right, you go Hamilton over-exceeded, Verstappen over-exceeded, Vettel crumbled, and I don't know whether it was his tyres were dying towards the end of the race, but he went from being 10 seconds off Hamilton to being nearly 30 seconds, so it may have just been saving the engine.
Well, it did come up saying that he didn't think the tyres were going to last to the end of the race, because they were questioning a two-stop strategy, so it probably was his tyres.
Yeah. Bottas did well, kept Kimi Raikkonen behind him for the whole race. Ricciardo, he did alright on a track that he knows well and drives well at, so he did alright. Alonso probably, I mean, didn't really see him on TV at all, but he kept himself out of trouble, did well. So the top 7 drivers...
And compared to his teammate, he did exceptional.
Yeah. Now, you could say, well, the top 7 drivers, well, the top 6 are the 3 teams you expect to be there, and so it's no different. But the thing is, on a circuit like Singapore, it's very easy to go and ping into a wall. Now, okay, Ocon was the only DNF, so you could say everyone's done well to not crash out. But the cream of the crop definitely rose to the top. It was the driver's ability around that track that got them into those top 7 places. And you look at people like Perez, struggled. Ocon, unfortunately, we didn't get to see, but I would have liked to have seen how he got on, because we may have seen, okay, he's good on a street circuit as well. You got Sorokin, who did very well, but then you've got Grosjean, who had a shocker. Magnussen, where was he?
I actually thought as well that Gasly and Harley did okay, considering their car's not as got the same performance as some of the other cars they're racing. I think both drivers didn't do too bad, to be fair.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so behind Alonso you had Carlos Sainz, who we hardly saw on camera at all, but he did you got to say, he did a very solid job. Then you got Charles Leclerc, who finished 9th, and you know what? He's in the points again. So the cream of the crop is rising to the top. It is showing itself here, because then you've got Nico Hulkenberg, who, as you mentioned, Steve, as soon as he got up behind Sorokin, bang, he was passed. Now, admittedly, Marcus Ericsson finished 11th, so I'm not sure if the cream has gone off a bit there or not. But to be fair, he had probably one of his better races of the season. Now, Van Dorn finished in 12th. That's his highest finishing position for a while, I think. But I think to a degree he may have just got a little bit lucky, because Gasly was in a very close battle with Stroll, I think it was, towards the end of the race. Grosjean obviously had his interesting event, shall we say. And then, yeah, Hartley was unfortunate being squeezed up against the wall. But yeah, Magnussen, he finished 18th, 2 laps down. So, I mean, I don't really remember much about his race, but not a good one for him.
Magnussen, didn't something happen? Didn't he have to pit first lap, or a couple of laps in or something?
Well, was it Magnussen that had to pit to remove the
debris on his front wing?
Debris on his front wing.
Might have been.
Let me just check my notes. I don't think I wrote it down.
It possibly was. I'm pretty sure there was a few drivers that pitted early, and I think he was one of them.
Yeah, quite possibly. Well, no, it was Sorokin, wasn't it? It was it was Sorokin. That's why he had to pit.
Yeah.
Because he had that's right, he had to pit. That's why he was on the tyres that could possibly go to the end. Something I've just seen on my notes is something that I'm guessing you heard about Verstappen mentioning about losing power in qualifying, and also
yes.
Obviously losing power on the way to the grid, and when he was pulling away from his pit box. Have you heard what Renault have said about that?
No.
Right. I was expecting Red Bull to perhaps change something on the engine, maybe take a grid drop penalty. But when I heard that they haven't done anything, I was quite surprised, because I thought, well, if your engine's like basically cutting out or dropping power, I think it was dropping power, kind of misfiring, and then also at max speed, we've heard Lewis Hamilton talk about D-rate. So when you get to top speed, your speed's dropping too much as it's regenerating.
Yeah, it's basically like when you're out of battery power and it starts to regenerate it.
Yeah. Now, what Renault have said is they're blaming, sort of, Red Bull are kind of blaming Renault for dodgy engines, but Renault are blaming Red Bull for saying that their car is packaged too tightly, plus they've not got enough air vents open. So, for example, every car on the grid has got side vents next to the driver's head, right?
Like gills.
Like gills, right? And every team on the grid had those pretty much fully open, because you can change how open they are just by changing a panel, basically.
Yeah. But the more open they are, the more drag you get, the slower you go in a straight line.
Exactly. So what do Red Bull do? Completely close it off. So every car had it completely open, Red Bull had it completely closed off. So Renault have basically been saying, well look, your car's packaged too tightly, it's getting too hot, and you've closed the air vents, so it's getting even hotter, and that's what's causing the problems. They're in a dispute about it, but that's the stance that Renault are taking on it.
What's your thought on this then? With Red Bull, they've been running the C spec engine.
Yeah.
But they are the only one out of the Renault engine runners to be running that spec engine at the moment.
Yeah, because Renault themselves have basically said it's not reliable enough for us yet.
Yeah.
I mean,
so it's got potential of having more power output, but it's not reliable enough yet. Yeah. So if you're going to put an engine in your car that's not reliable enough for the main dealer to be using it, the main manufacturer, then if it starts to go wrong, you can't complain. It's your choice to use it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was trying to think whether that's something that Mercedes would do, but as far as I'm aware, Mercedes have always had the next spec engine themselves, and when it's been tested and it's good to go, the other teams get it. That's how they roll.
They roll it out across all Mercedes engine units at the same time.
Yeah,
or make it available, and then it's up to the teams whether they
take
the engine change or not when it's available.
Now, I was surprised that, well, suppose Renault have sort of rolled it out and then they've rolled back, but I'm kind of surprised that they've allowed Red Bull to keep going with that engine, unless it's part of an agreement that it's like, well, yeah, go on, you can use it if you want, because then we might learn something from it. But for us, we're not going to use it because you might blow up and we can pass you.
I suppose though, when you look at Red Bull's point of view from it, they're not going to catch up Ferrari and Mercedes in the constructors, and they're not going to lose third place.
Yeah.
So they might as well be a Renault guinea pig, but also on the off chance they might win a race.
Yeah.
So it's worth taking that gamble.
Yeah, and when you look at it, Verstappen did have half a chance of attacking Hamilton. I mean, we mentioned about him not passing Hamilton, and you mentioned about how it's earned to 0.5% of respect towards him. I'm kind of on the fence with it. I kind of respect what he's done, but I was also very surprised by it, because I was just thinking that's not the Verstappen we've seen before. But having said that, seeing his interview after the race, where it's like, you know what, this is like a win. They wasn't expecting to get second place, so it's like a win. So I think he was much more calm, much more relaxed in the car, compared to where was it Spa, where he says where he got the time penalty, Monza.
No, it's Monza, but I think with that as well, that maybe he's had a discussion with his PR agent or whatever, and
you've just cut out, Steve. I'm on my own. Oh, are you back? I can't hear you.
Hello?
Hello, I can hear you now.
Yeah, I was busy talking and he said I can't hear you.
Oh, that was weird.
Yeah. I wonder if somebody from his PR department has basically said something to him just to mellow him out a little bit and say, no, that's not going to look well for you in the future if that's going to be your attitude going forward.
I mean, it is possible that, I mean, like say, someone could have whispered in his ear as well, saying, look, you're the #1 driver next year. You need to show a level of maturity. You need to show the attitude of a champion, so that it benefits you next year. I mean, it's a little bit like, well, if Perez was in a championship winning car, there's no way I'd enjoy watching him win races. No way in a million fucking years, because of the attitude that he has. And don't get me wrong, it is frustrating being stuck behind a slow car and you're unable to overtake, and I get that, but it's the whole package attitude.
Yeah.
I mean, we joked before about, or like James, or was it you mentioned before? No, it was James, about Webber saying that Vettel's car finishes just behind his helmet, and well, Perez's finishes at his front wing. So it's the whole package with Perez. But I mean, I think Verstappen perhaps may be aware as well that he is a little bit like Marmite at the minute, where people love him or they can't fucking stand him. Now, he could quite simply go, well, that's not my problem. But what he doesn't want to do is alienate the fans that he has got. Whereas if he shows a maturity, which I think he did in that situation, not going for the overtake, because, okay, let's say he goes for the overtake and he makes it work, he leads the race, he wins the race. Some people would go, that's amazing, it was very opportunistic, and I would be one of them, right? But if he goes for it, fucks it up, and ends up out of the race, that don't look too good, because you've got Hamilton going slow on the back foot and you still couldn't make it work because a couple of people are driving like dicks.
Yeah, but you blame Grosjean if it don't stick.
True, yeah, true. But he definitely showed a level of maturity that I've not really seen in him since probably Spain, you know, when he won at Spain. And I think that's one of the things with him as well. He has clearly got ability and talent, but as I know James has said before, it's either win or crash out with him sometimes.
Well, that was a shame with Schumacher. He'd either win or crash.
Yeah.
But 9 times out of 10 he won.
Now, Leclerc, did he do enough this weekend to show, yeah, is the right choice to go to Ferrari?
No. But has he done enough over the whole season so far? Oh, I don't know. I think I'd like to have seen another season out of him.
Yeah, quite possibly. Now, for anyone that is listening, obviously James did tell us a little while ago that he was not feeling. He was feeling a bit sick and he'll be back in a bit. So hopefully James is feeling all right. He might just be listening in to us at the moment. With him having had his tooth out, he's definitely not in a good position. I'm just checking up on some of my notes actually, and you know what?
What?
About Kevin Magnussen, I mentioned that we'd not seen him on the screen much. But I'm seeing, made some notes about lap 36 that Magnussen and Hartley had a decent little battle, and Magnussen actually got past Hartley, but Hartley retook Magnussen off the track, which I can't remember him getting a penalty for, but that was one occasion sort of. I've just seen as well on lap 43, so what, 7 laps later, Magnussen does a nice move on Hartley into turn 1, which he did. He trucked it up the inside, but Hartley repasses him off the track.
That was the one I think I was on about.
Yeah, quite possibly. Did Hartley do enough this weekend, do you think, to keep his seat at Toro Rosso?
Do you know, I don't know, but I think he's going to be in Toro Rosso again next year. Otherwise, they've got to look for 2 drivers that they haven't got.
Well, yeah, they may still go back to Fiat. I mean, Ocon is an interesting story. There's an interesting situation. I know not Red Bull, Christian Horner has been asked a lot about the situation with Ocon, because obviously the stories have come out that there are teams up and down the grid that are not interested in taking on Ocon because of his Mercedes connection. If he didn't have the Mercedes connection, then they may be more tempted to take him on. Now, there has also been the sort of leaking of information saying that Ocon, basically from Toto Wolff, saying that Ocon basically had a contract agreed somewhere, or at least a verbal agreement, and they've gone back on it.
Yeah, that was the verbal agreement with Cyril Abiteboul. Then obviously once Ricardo signed for them, it was like, well, okay, they've signed 2 drivers. What's happening with Ocon and the verbal agreement? And Sarah Beeble basically turned around to Toto Wolff and said it was only verbal.
Yeah. You see, now that's one of those things where you can go, okay, yeah, it was only verbal, but that's well, okay, there's 2 ways to look at that. In Cyril Abiteboul's situation, you go, Ocon or Ricciardo. Sorry, Ocon, but we're going for Ricciardo.
Yeah.
Now, the right thing to do there would be to go to Ocon and say, look, Ocon, I'm really sorry, but we're not going to be able to sign you because we've got the opportunity to sign Ricciardo. Ocon then goes, okay, no problem, thank you for letting me know. Not Ocon opening the paper and going, shit, what's happened here then?
Well, just going to mention something, and Christian Horner, after the race, it wasn't on Sky, this again was on Channel 4, was asked, I can't remember the guy on Channel 4.
The Welsh guy.
It wasn't him, I think it was somebody else that was talking to him. Oh no, actually, tell a lie. It was the F1 guy that does the YouTube stuff. Not Ben Edwards. Jake. Not Jake. Will Buxton.
Yes.
That's the one. He was asking Christian Horner questions about the Red Bull program and how they've invested in 2 teams.
Yeah.
And now, obviously, as a going concern, Toro Rosso is self-funded, separate from. Well, obviously, it gets sponsorship money from Red Bull, but it's obviously got somewhere for its young drivers to go in. Should Mercedes, instead of complaining, or Toto Wolff complaining that they've got nowhere for their younger drivers to go, actually have a Mercedes B-spec team?
Well, that was the point that I was sort of hinting towards when I mentioned Christian Horner, that Christian Horner basically said, well, Mercedes should just go and back a B team. Yeah.
Or even start up a fresh B team, whichever.
Or, if Ocon is as good as you're making him out to be, put him in your car. So I can understand Christian Horner's stance on that one of, well, look, we don't want him because he has got connections with Mercedes. So if he's with us and we're basically helping him improve as a driver and he learns a lot about Toro Rosso and potentially Red Bull, but then he buggers off back to Mercedes, we've basically trained up our rival. That don't seem right. So I can understand that from Christian Horner, and even saying, well, look, Red Bull invested in a second team for the opportunity of having the young drivers come through. Now,
why not Williams free engines for Icon and the new lad?
Hello, James. So I think that was, why not Ocon and free engines with a new lad or something like that.
Williams free engines for Icon and the new lad.
I forgot the name of the lad.
Lando Norris. No, he's a McLaren.
Oh, Russell. George Russell.
Yeah.
George Russell.
Just Williams, free engines, and you put them 2 in car.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Now, the interest, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if that's, I mean, I was going to get onto the discussion sort of about Ocon, because it is an interesting one. Because, I mean, should Mercedes, well, Williams are in a very good situation, potentially, with being able to say to Mercedes, well, you've got 2 drivers that you want to put in our car. So bend over that barrel, pull down your pants and let us have a bit of fun, right? Williams are in that situation where they may be able to do that. Otherwise, Ocon isn't going to be in Formula 1 and George Russell ain't going to be in Formula 1. But should Williams... I don't want to see Williams become Mercedes' B team. Williams should be its own entity fighting for the championship points and championships. But I would like to see...
But right now they don't have 2 pennies to scrape together.
That is true. But I do think that Mercedes should have a B team.
And no offence, if I were Williams, I'd say that's not a bad driver lineup. Better than fucking Perez and Stroll, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mercedes could quite easily start up another team and just call it AMG.
Yeah. Or MB.
MB.
Martin Brundle Racing.
Or smart cars.
Smart. Or in German, fart cars. Yeah, I would.
There's a question for both of you then, right? Because yes, Mercedes could have a B team, and that would bring in another 2 drivers there.
Yep.
But what about if teams across the board could bring in a 3rd car to increase the cars on the grid? Would that make for better racing? Because each team would have. So basically, instead of having 6 cars or 3 teams with 6 cars battling for a race win, you could end up having 12 cars battling. No, not 12. What about 9 cars? Yeah, 9 cars battling for podiums.
Interestingly, that has kind of been Toto Wolff's response to Christian Horner saying fund a B team. His response is no, we'd rather go down the route of having a 3rd car. I personally think that's what they should do as well. All teams should be allowed a 3rd car. And we talked about it on a podcast fucking months and months and months ago. And one of the ideas I think you came up with, Steve, was you have the 3rd car, which is for your rookie driver, who basically scores rookie points.
Yeah.
And I mean that I
still agree with myself.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, I'd be perfectly happy for them to. Well, initially, I'd be perfectly happy for them to be fighting for championship points. The problem is, if Mercedes, let's say for example, or Ferrari are massively stronger, instead of another team finishing in 2nd, they're now going to be finishing in 4th. Sorry, not 2nd, finishing 3rd. They'll now be finishing 4th. So, but then I think if you were going to increase the size of the grid, which I think would be great, right? You would also, I think, have to increase the amount of positions that score points.
Quite possibly, but it would be optional for teams to run 3 cars. So a team like Red Bull that has Red Bull and Toro Rosso, then they don't necessarily have to run 3 cars, but they could do it where if there is a team running 3 cars, only the top 2 runners of that team score points. Per event.
I think the problem with doing something like that though is you end up with a car that you're racing against that ain't scoring points, so then you end up with the attitude of Perez of going get him out of my fucking way, he's not even scoring points. So I think I'd rather have it where you go, right, if you've got a 3rd car, it can score points for you.
Yeah.
And if you've got teams like Red Bull and Toro Rosso, both of them can have a 3rd car. Now, I think in a way, right, I think probably what I would prefer is, I mean, you look at the teams on the grid now. All of them have pretty much got a reserve driver that is at most of the Grand Prix or is on standby if needed. So they could effectively put that person in another car if they add the bits and add the space and add the tyres. Well, the tyres ain't a problem. Maybe the money for the tyres is. But I'd rather the FIA go, right, okay, each team is now required to put 3 cars on the grid.
Well, it shouldn't be that much of a problem, and that's the reason why I say that is because for years the teams used to take 3 cars to the events because there used to be the team car, the spare car, because if there was an incident at the start of the race and it was red flagged, the driver would run back to the pits, jump in the spare car, so they could be back on the grid for the restart. Yeah.
I mean, the thing is, I have heard as well many times where in practice sessions or commentary where they say, well, they do still have the 3rd car, it's just in a load of bits out the back, which effectively it is. So they've got all the bits there for a 3rd car, they're just not allowed to put it together. So they, as long as they've got space in the pit lane and enough mechanics to do it, they could do that. Now, if you think about it, people have got, oh, well, just think how much more money it would cost. Well, okay, it would cost a bit more money, and the biggest part of that would be the additional engines. But hey, we all know what you could do there, don't you? You fuck off these modern engines, and to be honest, Ted Kravitz put it perfectly. I think it was in one of the practice sessions. Put it perfectly. He said, Yeah, get rid of, because they were talking about the future look of cars that came out recently, and I've got a picture I'll show on that in a moment. So they were talking about that. He says now all we need to do is get rid of these hybrid engines, and he was about to say something else, and Crofty said, but Ted, it's good. What's the word? Basically testing. It's good knowledge building about the hybrid systems for road cars. And Ted goes, yeah, well, we've done that, we've shown it can be done, we've shown how to do it, we've shown how to improve it, now we can get rid of it and put a proper engine back in the car. You do that, you cut your costs down massively, right, because it would be massively reduced cost, and then teams will be able to afford to put a third car out, because I wouldn't be surprised if teams would be able to go, right, instead of paying £10 million an engine or whatever it fucking is, to go, right, well, we only need to pay £1 million for an engine now. That's £8 million times 2 that we can put towards the third car. Oh, and guess what, we've still got some money left over.
Well, here's another thought, right, other than bodywork and tyres, right, if your car has a mechanical failure during the event, as in practice session. Well, actually, practice session is a bit different, but maybe practice session, quali, and then the race. If you need to change your gearbox, your engine, or whatever part of the car, unless it's bodywork, you're at the event. If there was 3 cars per team, teams don't have to carry spares around. Basically, you go there with your car. If it breaks down, you're out.
Yeah. Apologies if people are hearing beeps. For some reason, Facebook is beeping.
I can't.
Oh, you won't hear it, but the viewers will. No, I agree with you. The thing is, as well, I mean, I would much rather see 20 cars. There's 10 teams, so you add another extra car, so that's another 10 cars on the grid. So 30 F1 cars going for a race. Yes, please. Because it don't matter where you're fucking racing, you're going to have action because there's 30 fucking cars on the grid.
Would you be okay, though, with a Ferrari 123 at Monza?
I'd be okay with it as long as it wasn't like a 10-second, 20-second, 30-second gap at the end of the race to the next team. I don't want to see this. And I know it's part of Formula 1 that... Sorry, I've got this beeping going off in my ears and it's really pissing me off. It's a message chat that I haven't been in for ages and it just keeps dinging for some reason. I know you two can't hear it, but I really can. Right, let's turn chat sounds off. Thank you very much. Alright, sorry about that. What was I saying? Yeah, I don't like the idea of one team dominating. It does make the sport boring. It has been. In every era where one team has dominated, the sport has been boring for who wins anyway. We've talked many times this season about how the best racing has been further down the grid, but they're not been showing it. So I would have no problem with a Ferrari 123 at Monza as long as 4th, 5th, 6th are not too far behind. As long as it's been a race, and as long as those 3 Ferrari drivers have been allowed to race.
Yeah. Do you think, though, that some teams will go, if it's 3 cars, that is, okay, the front 2 run their strategies this way in particular, but the third car, that's potentially the slower car, doesn't pit to hold everyone else up. So that way, 2 cars are getting an advantage. Whereas at the moment, where we see with the Mercedes in the race where they left Bottas out for a long time, you're hindering one car to benefit one, whereas you could end up hindering one car to benefit 2.
Well, maybe that's where you could incorporate James's idea of having multiple tyre manufacturers and going, right, everybody has to start on this tyre. The fastest tyre that runs out dead quick, and then nobody can do that.
If there's 3 tyre manufacturers, each car has to run a different tyre manufacturer.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many things that they could do. I am going to show you this picture of the concept car. Now, I know that James sent the picture to me and to Steve, so I don't know if you want to jump in on this point, James, of the look of the concept cars. He's just typing his message, possibly. Just grunt when you're ready, James. Now, what I will say is, as soon as I saw the picture of the concept cars, instantly I went, I like that. I like the look of that.
My first impressions were, who's photoshopped that? Because I thought, okay, because the first image was a leak.
Yeah.
Because obviously there was this seminar to do with the people at FIA and whatever about the concept before it was all mass released.
Yeah.
And obviously Ross Brawn was there up on stage talking about it. And obviously there was the images in the background. And I was thinking, yeah, that's been photoshopped. Who's done that? Is this a Sean Bull design kind of car? But I actually quite like it. And I don't know whether they've looked at the, I say current or the next gen Formula E and gone, that looks good, we need some of that.
Yeah, and I think the front wing definitely kind of had a hint of Formula E-ish to it. The thing is, I even looked at the halo and I thought, that looks alright, that does.
The halo, it's strange me saying this, the halo kind of looks more aggressive.
Yeah.
Because it's got more of a point and more of a V to it.
Yeah.
But also, on one of the images I saw, and I don't know whether it's the image you're showing, the rear wheels are half covered.
It does look like
from the rear.
James,
from the rear.
James is ready.
James.
And starting to not feel like I'm floating.
Is that I'm starting to feel like I'm not floating?
Either that or his medication is really kicking in and it feels like he is
I've
floating.
been sick and starting to not feel like I'm floating.
So he's been sick and he's feeling better, hopefully. Well, I'm sad to hear that you've been feeling a bit sick, James. Maybe it's from being upside down last night. We will get onto that, whether James is still with us at that point or not. So James, if you've been away, we're talking about the look of the concept cars and the picture that you sent us. I'm looking at the image now, and it does look a bit like at the rear wings are over the. Well, it kind of looks like it's inside the tyre, to be honest. Well, actually, looking at it, it looks like the rear wing has got a bit of a rear cover, it's like a wheel arch.
Yeah, and I don't know whether that's to stop cars getting launched up the rear.
They look sexy.
They do look sexy. I mean, that's the thing. I know. Go on.
Did anybody notice the mistake that was made with the images that were shown in this particular seminar?
No.
All right, I'll see if I can find an image and I'll send it to you to see if you can find the mistake.
Okay.
But anyway, talk amongst yourselves for a minute.
Yeah, well, I mean, James is right. I know it's not James's voice, but James is right. The cars do look sexy, and that's something I know before this season started, and we were talking about how the cars were going to look and stuff. And one of the things we asked for was for the cars to look sexy. And I'm glad that Ross Brawn's in this picture because he himself said the cars should look sexy. And that's one of the things I do like about Ross Brawn. He is
Old F1 logo.
Oh,
James is right. What the hell was that noise?
That was an ad on his voice changer. On his either that or James has just screamed.
But also, this particular car as well doesn't have the rear tyre covers. But I'll send you the image, Dave.
Okay. So was it the old F1 logo then?
Yes.
Ah.
So somebody must have got a shot for it anyway.
Let's have a look. Okay. It's
on the side pod.
Oh yeah. Oh. See now, that even from that angle, that does look sexy. That is a sexy looking car.
Yeah. But it's interesting how it's not got that particular one's not got the rear arches on it.
No, but what it has got, I'm going to try and just save that picture so I can show it. Because what I want to mention is that what it's got on the back is instead of on the crash structure, it's kind of V-shaped.
Yeah.
So that if a car did hit it up the rear, it's not going to go up. So yeah, it's got a V shape on the back. So if you hit the back of it, your car's not going to go up because there's a bar there to stop you from going up.
Or could you end up submarining underneath it? But then again, I suppose you've got the halo nowadays, haven't you?
Yeah, I mean, there is a chance that you could submarine underneath it, but yeah, I mean, with the halo, there is a bit more protection there. I mean, what I will say is, though, from both the pictures we've shown, it does look a little bit like the driver's helmet peaks just above the halo.
Some of them do already, and that's what that shocks me with the halo, that some of the drivers' helmets are above the halo. I don't know whether it's the taller drivers, but yeah, some of them do peak above it.
I mean, what I will say is, I mean, if that's what... Okay, I mean, I heard that... I think someone had said to me that it was 2020 cars, but on the picture I showed with Ross Brawn, it did say 2021. James actually wrote 2012 in his message to me. But,
I spotted that.
yeah, okay. James has sent me, or you've sent another picture that shows the rear. I mean, I haven't got a problem. I know Formula One is an open wheel class, but I haven't got a problem with them having a bit of a rear wheel arch if it stops punctures from the tiniest of contacts. But what I do like from that first picture that I showed is the simplicity of the front wing. It looks absolutely stunning, but also very simple. And yeah, I mean, well, let's put it this way. Having looked at that car, did it make you think, I can't wait to see that go round a racetrack?
Well, looking at it straight away, it would be nice to see you going around a racetrack, but to me that would look like you've got not a lot of front downforce, which would mean close racing. Normally, that's what it would mean.
Yeah, I mean, I looked at them and thought that kind of hits the. If you remember when we talked about how we think an F1 car should look at before the season started, one of the things I remember saying is an F1 car should look like it's going fast when it's standing still, and these kind of look like that. They look like they're going fast when they're not even moving.
Yep.
Well, okay. Should we have a look at how we got on with our predictions?
Yes.
Okay. As I'm getting ready to show these, for anyone that may be listening that's not listened in to us before a race, we'll make predictions and see how we get on. And James has not been doing very well this season, but I have decided to bring in a new feature to the predictions, guys.
Okay.
Now, for anyone that's new to the predictions part of our podcast, we do 6 predictions, but for this last race we've just done, we've only done the 4 because we didn't have a show before the race. So we've only done the 4 predictions. The 2 that have got not applicable on the picture that you can see, don't worry, I've got 2 ready for the next race, and we'll get on to those shortly. But the new feature that I'm bringing in, right, and before you ask me to backdate it, I'm not going to backdate it, right? The new feature I'm bringing in from now is on the podiums section, you will get a point if you have got a driver's name right in the position. So if you say, for example, Hamilton first, Kimi second and Max third, but Hamilton's first, Vettel second and Bottas is third, you'll get 1 point for getting Hamilton right. If you get all 3 names right but in the wrong position, you'll get 3 points. If you get all 3 names right and in the right position, you'll get 5 points.
I'm pretty sure I said something like this a long time ago. Mate, I said I've got the right people on the podium, just not in the right order.
You did get points for them. You got points for that.
Yeah.
You got 2 points for that at that time, but I'm not backdating this. Now, what it means for our predictions this week is that I have had an absolute fucking nightmare. I've got no points, none at all. So yeah, I can tell you now, James has caught me up a little bit. Okay, so go through the predictions. Steve picked Hamilton for pole. James picked Hamilton for pole.
Shock.
Yes. And I picked Ricardo, and he was nowhere fucking near. So point each for Steve and James there. For the winner, Steve went for Hamilton. James went for Hamilton. So point for the both of them, which means that I got nothing because I went for Kimi Räikkönen. On the podium, Steve went for Hamilton winning, Kimi second, Max third, and Steve was really close with Max, but he only gets the 1 point for getting Hamilton right.
So I don't get a point for saying Max was on the podium because he wasn't in the right place.
He wasn't in the right position, but had you got all three drivers' names right but in the wrong place, I'd give you the 3 points. So you would have got more points than you got previously. I know it may seem complicated, but I've got to remember this. Okay, so James, he got Hamilton in the right position, Max Verstappen in the right position, and he got Bottas in the wrong position. So James gets 2 points, which means James has scored 4 points, which is the most he scored, I think, in any one game. And I got fuck all because none of my people got near the fucking podium. Okay, first to crash out, Steve went for Vettel. James went for Vettel, I went for Vettel, we were all horribly wrong. No,
You went for Hamilton.
Sorry, I went for Hamilton as well. Sorry, yeah, I went for Hamilton. So we're all horribly wrong, which means that Steve has increased a lead, or not increased, he's taken the lead from 1 point behind to 2 points ahead. He's on 24. I'm in second place on 22 points, and James has closed the gap. He's now on 15 points. So, with this slight change of the scoring system, it could spice things up towards the end of the season. So, James is definitely still within a fighting chance, but Steve could always run away with it. So there we are for the predictions. Okay, when's the next race, Steve?
It's not this weekend, it's the weekend after. It's Russia.
It's Russia. Okay, well I'm thinking that we should do our predictions now for Russia, because then they're done and they are out of the way. So James, you can start thinking, if you can hear us and you haven't got your head down the toilet still, you can start thinking about who you're going to pick for your regular 4, and I will tell you now what the other 2 random predictions will be, so that you can have a think about it. Okay, so the 2 random predictions will be who will get Dick of the Day and who will have the most positions gained. So they'll be the 2 random predictions. Okay, so Russia it is then. It's an interesting circuit, one I like, but it's a horrible fucking racetrack at the same time. So Steve,
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, I'll go to give James a little more time, I think. Well, actually, we'll ask James. James, would you rather me come and ask you for all of your predictions at the same time, or one at a time? Or would you like me to wait until you're awake? Deadly silence. I don't know if it's there, Steve.
He probably has. He's probably typed his message out, pressed play, and then realised, shit, I've got it on mute still.
That is possible. And now he's got to type a new message going, shit, yes, I was on mute. Okay, I'll tell you what, we'll go through yours, Steve, and we'll see if James gets back to us. So, let me just finish writing. Okay. So, who for pole position and why?
Hamilton. Oh, Russia, power track. It's got to be, hasn't it? I know the Ferraris are good, but Hamilton's on form.
Do you think Hamilton as a driver is making the difference of the deficit of the Mercedes compared to the Ferrari?
No, I think You could say yes, but Vettel's just doing shit.
So Vettel's making the difference between yeah. Okay. So Hamilton for pole then. Who's going to be the winner?
Hamilton will win it.
Okay, and your podium 3.
Hamilton first. Vettel and then Raikkonen.
Oh. Okay, first to crash out.
Perez.
Oh, he's going for a full-on demise.
But if he doesn't race, I'll go for Sorokin.
Okay.
Because obviously if he doesn't race, that's not fair.
Well,
For a prediction.
might not be fair, but it'd be funny. Okay, Dick of the Day.
Can I say there'll be no Dick of the Day because it'll be boring race?
You can. You got to bear in mind though, it's going to be me that's going to choose who's Dick of the Day. Or no, actually, I think for Dick of the Day, what we should actually do is we would have to discuss it between the 3 of us, and let's say, for example, it doesn't matter who I had voted for. If I said, right, okay, for me, Perez was Dick of the Day. If James was to say, yeah, Perez was Dick of the Day, then Perez is Dick of the Day. It doesn't matter what you say. Right?
Well, actually, I'm going to change my answer then for Dick of the Day.
Go on.
I'm going to say the Ferrari strategist.
Oh no, it's got to be a race driver.
Why?
Because it's what I'm telling you.
Okay, Dick of the Day. I'm going to go with. Oh, it's got to be the obvious one, Ericsson.
Oh, hang on, I've crossed out the wrong thing. Okay, Ericsson. Right. Yeah, so we'd have to come up with a majority vote on who we would pick as Dick of the Day. And obviously whoever has got it right would get the points. Problem for me, well, I suppose we can discuss it before we come live. It'd give me time to sort the picture out. Okay, who do you think will get most positions gained?
Ricardo. Because he'll probably be starting from the back with an engine grid penalty.
Quite possibly. Okay, James, are you still with us? It's a shame we can't hear him snoring on a type phone.
No.
Thing is, to be fair, I mean, James hasn't been well at all, and he may be being ill at the moment. If he is, then I hope he's not too bad and will feel better soon.
We won't laugh too much.
No, I mean, he is still on the Skype call with us, so if he was compos mentis and needed to go, he would let us know and he'd go. So he's either completely passed out, or he's left his phone in the living room and he's gone to throw up, or he's fast asleep.
He's busy making Vicky a cup of tea.
Might be, yeah. Okay, I'll do my predictions then. Okay, Russia. You know, I'm going to go Bottas for pole, because Russia is a track that he's quite strong at. However, he's been very unlucky there over the last few years. Winner, I'm going to go with Hamilton. And for my podium, I'm going to go Hamilton, Bottas, Kimi. So Vettel's not even going to get on the podium. First to crash out. Oh, let's see, who's going to fuck up down into turn 2, as they call it. Let's see, I reckon it'll be Magnussen. And he's going to crash into Vettel and wipe him out.
Are those two really going to be close to each other?
Well, Magnussen has got a possibility of being 7th on the grid, and he's got a possibility of completely fucking up and wiping out Vettel. I mean, you got to think it's a long run down into that first sort of proper corner, so there's going to be a lot of slipstreaming going on. He might also just completely bin it himself and wipe Vettel out at the same time, going backwards across the corner. Okay, Dick of the Day, that's going to go to Perez. although if he's racing, I don't think he's going to be driving, to be honest. But if racing, if he's not, it will be. Oh, it's a difficult one. It really is. Ericsson. No, I won't go Ericsson because you've picked Ericsson. I'll go. See, I would go Magnussen, but he's going to crash out at the start, so it can't be Magnussen.
Well, maybe that's what will make him Dick of the Day.
No, you know what? I'm going to go for Verstappen. After we've praised him today, he's going to have a mare. Okay, most positions gained, Fernando Alonso. It's a track that McLaren will struggle on because of the high-speed nature of the straight, but I think he's going to start so far down the grid that he's going to gain loads of places. So there we go. Right, we'll try again to see if James is still with us. Are you with us, James? I think we may have lost him. Have to send out a search party. Well, it means we can't get James's prediction yet. Either that or he's still typing it out.
Can we guarantee that we'll get his predictions before the qualifying's completed?
Yes, on this occasion, yes. We'll get his. We've got 2 weeks to get his predictions, so if we can always get them next week if we're able to put a podcast on next week. So yeah, we can always collar him about it then, but we will get it before the next race. That I will guarantee you. Unless something happens and he can't speak or write, and then we'll never get them. But anyway, right. I think that's just about me done for the F1 stuff. I don't think there was anything else I was really going to mention.
I can't think of anything else.
No. James, if he's there, may be able to come in. Oh no, there was something else. There was something else. Right, okay. From the Singapore Grand Prix, how many overtakes do you think there was?
18.
18? Okay.
Yeah.
Bear in mind, not including lap 1 because, well, okay, not including lap 1 because it's so difficult to know exactly who's gained, who's lost and all that, and with the safety car coming out so soon again. Remembering about this has actually reminded me about something else. Right? Do you remember when we reviewed Spa and we talked about the timing of the safety car coming out just as the leading 4 cars got to the sort of braked for the chicane and bang, the safety car came out, right?
Yeah.
Did you notice that pretty much exactly the same thing happened in Singapore?
It was almost waiting for Vettel to make the overtake, and then the safety car came out.
Bang, safety car came out.
But I was going to mention this. I'm glad you brought this up because there's something I was going to discuss about this, and it's something that they do in British touring cars, and that is a safety car is deployed, but the drivers get to race up to the safety car board, as it is in touring cars, which tends to be the sector before the pit lane, depending on where the incident is.
Right.
So basically, let's say, for instance, on lap 1 you have a turn 1 incident, the cars would be able to continue to race up until
the start of the final sector.
The start of the final sector. And that's when the safety car boards would be shown. So the drivers would know that the safety car has been deployed, but they get to race up to the safety car board and where the yellow flags would start waving.
You see, now that makes sense to me because everybody knows exactly the point to stop racing. Now, I don't know if you will have heard this, right? Because they talked about it on Sky, so I don't know whether you would have heard this on Channel 4. And I can't remember the exact source of the information, right? Other than it came from Charlie Whiting, but I can't remember how Sky got hold of the information because they talked about it live as the race was going on. And the information was, now I don't have a problem. I think Charlie Whiting may have just put the information out. Maybe he's been listening to our podcast, because you know how we've been asking for more info.
Yep.
It was kind of along those lines. The information was basically that they could have pulled the safety car out straight away, but they decided it would be a good idea to let the drivers race a little bit and then bring the safety car out at a safer point on the circuit. Okay,
Yeah,
fine.
hang on.
Okay, fine, no problem. But why, just as soon as Vettel has overtaken in the braking zone into a corner? Because, okay, he's got his move done, everybody else is fucked.
I was just about to say that. What would have been wrong with doing it when they're all in the twisty section somewhere?
Yeah. I mean, I have no problem. I mean, that for me shows that he does have the authority to wait. He does get to choose when to bring the safety car out. However, the timing of the safety car was wrong, because you've got cars that are battling, trying to overtake each other into that corner, that all of a sudden are not allowed to do so. So to me, it's seeing things like that that make you go, you know what? I can see why people years ago used to go, oh, FIA, Ferrari International Assistance, because it would be very easy for a conspiracy theorist to look at it and go, well, he let Vettel get past and then he's hit the safety car button. So,
I mean, for all we know, Bottas might have been about to make a move on somebody, or Alonso about to make a move, or anybody down the field. They should have waited for everyone to get around that. Turn 7.
You know what I'd like to do actually. Maybe we can try and do this. Is if we could actually get an image of the point the safety car was deployed from a camera looking from that corner down the straight, so you could see if there was any cars that were in any kind of a battle.
I will, with my Channel 4 footage, I will watch that back, and I'll be able to, obviously not right now, but I will get an image of when it showed it on Channel 4, and I'm not sure, but when that overtake was being made, you might be able to see further down the field if anything other potential overtakes
could have possibly happened. Because that's the point that gets me, is that okay, one person was able to make their move, but nobody else was.
And what if Max was about to
fight back
into the next corner? It's like, okay, Vettel's out of position into turn 7, but Max might have had a better position into turn 8.
I mean, not even that. I mean, as a racing driver, I would like to think that sometimes if you're under attack, you go, okay, I'll let them go by around the outside there, as you say, because now they're going to be out of position and I can go a bit quicker over here. So you sacrifice to gain later on. So if you're in that situation as a driver and the safety car comes out, okay, there's nothing you can do. But I think as a racing driver, looking back at it, if I was Max Verstappen, you'd kind of be in your rights to go, well, why did you pull the safety car out right then? Because I could have fought back on him, and all of those guys behind could have been able to have a bit of a fight as well. So was it BTCC you said to bring the safety car? I mean, if James has heard this, it'd be interesting to see what his thought is on it.
It's literally one sector before the incident. So they race up to the sector before the incident. And then that's when the safety board are shown, and then the safety car picks them up, obviously, after the pits.
I mean, because it straight away gives you a defined point of, right, stop racing. It's a bit like the safety car line. You can't race before that. So, I mean, let's face it. If a crash happens that could possibly bring out a safety car, most engineers are going to be on the radio to their driver saying safety car window, or this may be a safety car. So the engineer can instantly tell the driver crash in sector 3, could be a safety car, is a safety car, sector 2 slow down. So within a matter of a second or two, the driver is aware where the crash is and what sector he needs to slow down by. Anyway, what led us on to that was how many overtakes in the race. So, not including lap 1, how many overtakes for the race?
I said 18.
Yeah, 7.
What?
Now, admittedly, that's 7 that I saw on screen, right? I haven't included the ones where a driver has attempted an overtake and been repassed on the exit of the corner, right? So, because for me, that's not an overtake. They've tried to go completed overtake, 7.
I suppose a lot of the overtaking were done in the pits and stuff, wasn't it?
It was in the pit lane, was on blue flags, ended in collisions.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I may be off by 1 or 2 there. But 7 was the number I got to, which kind of just does emphasise what we mentioned earlier on about how it was not much of a race, but it was still entertaining. It was entertaining.
Something else I've noticed actually from this week's Grand Prix, something that we've mentioned in the past, and that is the constructors on the podium should at least have a bottle of champagne. They did.
Did they?
Yes.
I didn't get as far as the podium celebrations, unfortunately.
Yeah. The chap on the... It was a smaller bottle than the drivers. I will say it was a smaller bottle. I don't know whether he took it up there himself or whether it was supplied, or whether, because it was Singapore, it may be rose water or whatever, sparkling water, because it did look like it was a blank bottle and not the normal champagne bottle. So I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure it's Singapore where they don't have alcohol on the podium. But the constructor had a bottle.
Well, can't argue with that. One other thing I have just thought of that I will mention, seeing as we're sort of talking about this at the moment, is if the FIA bloody if the
for our international assistants,
if the FIA aren't listening in to us, because as you mentioned before, Steve, we seem to talk about stuff and then stuff seems to happen. Like for example, since you last moaned about the Heineken logo, I've not seen any kind of dodgy fucking logo like that.
No, I haven't, but I'm wondering whether as well may have been too much in your face in a night race.
Yeah, maybe. Although I did notice that they did have graphics on a bridge, which I'm guessing was, some of it was superimposed. What was I going to say? Yes. Okay, if the FIA are listening to this, or Charlie Whiting is listening to this, as James likes to think, please, 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 for the love of God, don't put racing incident. If there's a driver to blame the driver and then say no further action because he's already fucked himself. You don't have to write that bit, just no further action, but go, Perez is a dick, no further action. We know why, because he's fucking at the back of the grid fucked himself.
I mean, to be honest, this week he made so much of a, I would say mistakes, it wasn't a mistake, so much of a cock up that the FIA had to take action.
Yeah.
Or at least the stewards took action and give him a drive-through penalty for it, even though it had to pit for a spare tyre anyway, for a tyre change. But why can't they just say, Vettel deemed at fault, no further action?
Yeah. Because
we can all see that he's the only person that it's affected.
Yeah. Yeah. It would make such a difference, honestly. It really would. Because as we've seen recently online, we've been racing on Gran Turismo Sport around the Red Bull Ring and watching people run so far wide off the track they're pretty much up against the barriers, and when we've pulled them up on it and said you're meant to be racing on the tarmac, not over there
on the black stuff,
and they're going, oh, it's part of the track, trust me, I know. And it's like, no, you know what,
I mean, just to put it into context, at Red Bull Ring, turn 1, you've got a white line that defines the tarmac and the edge of the track, and then you've got the red and white curbing, and then you've got a yellow anti-cut curb, which basically means don't go over that, and if you do, it should slow you down anyway, and you don't want to be touching it because it's not a very nice curb. and then you've got a big fat, probably 2-car width red stripe, and then a 2-car width white stripe, and then a 2-car width red stripe, and then the wall. Well, these guys were going so wide around turn 1, totally missing out the anti-cut because they were off the track before it, onto the past the white stripe onto the far red stripe, coming back onto the circuit after the anti-cut, flat out, going down the straight faster than what you could if you was on a normal racing line. Yeah. And it's like, that's not right.
Yeah.
That, and how can people think that it's acceptable? I mean, it's not. We're not on about, oh, I've just gone over the white line a bit because I was a bit sideways coming out of the corner.
Yeah,
it's just.
Yeah, I mean, when you're watching them and you're seeing them doing it again and again and again, and lap after lap after lap, and the same for the final corners. And the thing is, I'm not saying that the FIA are all to blame for it, but people will see racing drivers getting away with stuff like that in real life and go, well, it's fine. They don't penalise it in real life. Well, I'm sorry, it's not fine. And to be honest, I have been given a warning by PlayStation for calling cheats. Well, not calling cheats, for calling out cheats and basically saying you're a cheat because they were doing these things, and I've been reported for that. Or it could have been because I said good night, good drivers, fuck off shit ones, although I wrote F off S hit ones. Now, I'm pretty sure that I have just heard James
snore.
The early grunt of a snore twice. So now we know what has happened to James. He's absolutely knackered. I know he hardly got any sleep whatsoever last night because of his toothache. He was up early this morning for work. Then he went and had his tooth pulled out. He's been in agony all day. He's on medication. He's been sick this evening, maybe because he's been on so much medication. So I'm not surprised that he is absolutely knackered and has fallen asleep. Now that does leave us in a bit of an interesting situation, Steve, because I mean, I had a few things planned for our after show, which we wouldn't normally do after our F1 podcast. However, I was going to say, with James not feeling too well, it might be better if we don't do the after show this week, because it's just random stuff that we talk about, and it can be stuff that the stuff I've got. We can talk about it next week. We can do that instead. And with James having fallen asleep, it would appear, I don't think it would be right for us to end our F1 live stream to start up another live stream just to listen to James snoring. So we are in a bit of a sort of a situation as where we would have to decide what is the right thing to do.
Listen to James snore, of course.
Well, the thing is, right, I am thinking that we perhaps don't do our after show because, like I say, it is random stuff. It's not like F1. It's just random stuff. And like I say, I have got a few things that I'd prepared for tonight, but we can do them next week anyway. One of the things that I was going to mention regarding our after shows is we got James a couple of weeks ago to do a bit of a voiceover on some animal video clips. I'd completely forgotten about it, the video that I'd put together for the last show and we didn't get to do until I saw it earlier today, and I was like, so what I'm going to actually do with that is I'm going to send it to James. I'm going to get James to do a voiceover on it so that he can watch it and do a voiceover on it. I'm then going to get him to send it back to me. I'm not going to watch it, and then me and Steve will get to see it live for the first time actually on the podcast. So that's something that I'm going to try and get sorted out for next week as well. And James agrees with me by the sounds of it. Now, one of the things that we have hinted at today, and this is something that I was going to show in the after show, is what happened in James's racing league last night. To do with the final turn that was mentioned earlier on in our podcast. Would you like to see what happened at the final turn? I think James is waking up now. Right. Now this is something that I would normally show. I would have shown in the after show, but we're not going to do an after show, so I am going to show it now. And I'm just going to set the scene, right? Okay, so James's Racing League, Forever Relentless Racing, was racing on Project Cars 2 last night in the Mercedes AMGs for race 2 of his season 5. I didn't do too bad. I qualified 2nd, James qualified 3rd, Dave the Harp qualified 4th. So we're like, yeah, okay, we can have a good race here. We've done a bit of, we can have a good race. We get going. James passes me off the line. Okay, fair enough. We start having a good race. A little later, a few laps in, James says to me, says, Dave, do you reckon you could catch him? Because the leader's starting to pull away. And I said, I don't know. I think so, yeah. So James says, okay, I'll let you go get him. So James let me pass him, and what do? Went off at the next corner. So James is back ahead. So anyway, we have a good battle. A few more laps in, and then we hear Dave the Hart go, what the fuck? My pause button's come on. So his pause button comes on, he's got a blank screen, he ends up nailing into the back of someone, then head first into a wall. He's struggling in the race now. Dave he's basically out the running for fighting for a win or the podium. Within 30 seconds of that happening to Dave, James has exactly the same problem. He manages to solve it, gets the screen back, but now his car won't change gear. His car won't speed up. He can't get going. He's complaining, saying, I'm out of the race. And I'm thinking he's retired. Then a few seconds later, about 30 seconds later, I hear, oh, fucking hell, the pit limiter's on. So now James is just about as far back as Dave the Harpers, unfortunately, and I am now in 2nd place. The leader's pulling away. It turns out that Dave and James both end up doing a pit stop and both end up coming out of the pits. James has gone off Skype, so he's just woken up. So James and Dave come out of the pits, and they are in between the leader and me, and I don't have a problem with that. So Dave and James are a lap down on the leader. They're just ahead of me, and it gets into the final lap. By this point, I've managed to get past James and I've managed to get past Dave. They've let me through, but on the final lap, James has been right up my gearbox, right up my arse. I'm going to sneeze. Excuse me. So when it was definitely clear it is going to be the final laps, it's on a timer, I said to James, okay James, come on, let's have a fight. So I gave him permission to attack, and I'll show you what happened. I just need to send the link to Steve, and James will be able to watch it as well. Now, while this video is playing, Steve, the viewers will be able to hear us. So if you want to get that loaded up and let me know when you're ready. So yeah, so I've given James permission to attack me. He's a lap down, but I'm giving him permission to overtake me if he can.
I'm ready.
Okay, and this is what happens in 3, 2, 1, let's go. So I'm in the orange and white car, James is in the white and blue car, and just here I have a little bit of understeer, and this is the point where I've said, alright then James, come on, you can attack me. So I'm thinking we'll have a nice little battle. So he's up the inside, and I think, okay, I can get the switch back on him in the next corner, and let's see what happens. A little bit of contact, chuck it up the inside, make him think about me going for the move, and James runs wide, and then this happens. This happens. Now at this point I didn't realise anything else was wrong until I looked in my mirror and saw that James was on his roof. So here's the view from James's car. So bearing in mind he's a lap down, folks. Okay, I had about 12 seconds to 3rd place. By the time I crossed the line it was 4 seconds. Now, bearing in mind as well, James was laughing all the way through this. He was still laughing at this point.
Well, if he's been given a penalty
And then
by
laughing
the game,
at this point.
it'd be
He didn't
hard
do
to
this
penalise him
intentionally.
again.
And then he was still laughing. But what I like is now what's happens with his car. He's like, oh fuck, he's on his roof.
Does it just stick on his roof?
His wheel's spinning upside down. Or is he just having a fag in the car? And now the view from Dave the Harp. So there's me and James up ahead. So you can see, fake the move up the inside. That smoke is from James's car, not mine. And look at this. Bosh.
Oh, terrible.
Shocking. Dave the Harp's thinking, yeah. Well, the funny thing about that... the really funny thing about that is, I think Dave the Harp actually didn't let me through. Dave the Harp went deep at a corner, made a mistake, locked up, went deep, and that got me close enough for him to need to basically into turn one. He knew he had to let me go through. Next thing I hear is, "Fucking hell, James, you're not meant to come past me as well." But anyway. There we go. Right, well, James can always have a look back on that. He did apologise, and I don't blame him for it. But there we go. Quite funny though. It'll be interesting to see what he does. Because the thing is, when he was on his roof, he was going, "I'm going to be on minus points." So it was quite funny. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what he does with the commentary on that. Okay, I think it's time to wrap things up, because I believe James has gone. I think he's gone and got himself off to bed, and I don't blame him really. Oh, so I think we'll bring this podcast to an end.
Yep.
What we'll do, we're not going to do an after show tonight, folks, with James not being well and obviously having to go. I mean, he's been sick tonight. He's had a tooth pulled out. He's probably had a bollocking off the missus as well, because he's left his car at work. He's got his boss offering to pick him up to take him back to work in the morning. So yeah, he's got a lot on his mind as James at the moment, as well as the guilt of crashing into me last night. But I mean, it is a bit of a shame though, because one of the things I was going to do tonight in the after show was a would you rather, and one of the questions was would you rather eat chocolate flavoured shit or have a tooth pulled out?
I don't know, I'd probably say have a tooth pulled out. Because at the moment I've got a tooth that needs pulling out, so I might as well. But I suppose it wouldn't really taste like shit if it was tasted chocolate.
No, it just looked like shit. So there we go. Anyway, right, yeah, so no after show tonight, folks. What we'll do is we'll have a chat over the next couple of days. We'll get James's predictions sorted out, and hopefully we'll get a podcast up next Tuesday where we can do effectively, instead of it being an after show, it can be a 50th episode show. So that'll be next Tuesday, where hopefully we'll have a little bit of a new look. So that's not really going to be much about Formula 1, but it may give James the opportunity to not speak like a robot and get across anything that he did want to say that he wasn't able to say today. And we can do all the stuff that we were going to do in our after show as well. And we may have a little chat about the Russian Grand Prix that's to come up. So anyway, thank you very much for listening in. Make sure you check out James's Racing League, Forever Relentless Racing, on YouTube, on Facebook, and on Twitter. If you're into racing, Gran Turismo Sport, check out Steve's Racing League, Dynamic GT League, on Facebook and YouTube. I believe you've decided a date for the start of your season, Steve?
Yeah, I believe it to be the 18th of October. It'll be in the Group 4s. So if anyone's interested, drop us a message on Facebook or on YouTube.
Or on PSN.
Yeah, or on PSN.
Yeah. Okay, right. Thank you very much, folks. Have a great night and enjoy the rest of your week, and we'll see you again soon.
Blah 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 blah.